Hey, what is up guys? It is your boy Speed here, and today we're going to be going over OG versus Team Liquid in a match where Team Liquid absolutely pwned OG with a last pick Huskar, and let's take a look. Alright, before you get into it, if I could ask you guys two quick things. If you could like the video, subscribe to the channel, and of course get a GameLeap sub because we post over thousands of videos all the time. We have a full library of videos that are going to help you get to the next rank. I would appreciate it, and let's get into it. Alright, so let's take a look at the draft. OG is going for the absolute Chad draft where you pick Weaver and Io and you just run around at a million movement speed and try to kill the enemy. It's a pretty legit strat. Also, Weaver builds Maelstrom, Io amps Spell Amp, which amps the Maelstrom damage as well as gives Weaver attack speed, which he desperately needs. And so, you know, it's just a really nice combo that we've been seeing teams run over and over and over again, and they legitimately think it's broken, and I do agree, it's very strong. However, it loses this game, so let's take a look how they counter it. Team Liquid goes for the Bloodseeker. That's one way to counter it. Is someone running away from you at a really fast pace? Well, you rupture them. Problem solved. Also, Earth Spirit's pretty good against this combo because you have a silence, and I don't think I have to explain why that's good against Weaver. Next up, Team Liquid goes for the Oracle, which I genuinely didn't understand. Like, I'm not gonna lie, the only thing I will say about Oracle is I know Team Liquid does like this hero, and it is like a good hero with Earth Spirit. It provides you this really nice team comp where you do a ton of damage in the early game because Oracle's this high nuker hero, and then late game you have a lot of cool utility. It's a very, like, I don't know, it's a very versatile duo support. Like, you have a lot of save. You have, like, I don't know, you just cover most of the types of heroes in the game, like, against Storm, like, high mobility heroes. Earth Spirit counters them against, like, tanky brutes who kind of just run down the lane. You can disarm them and root them and purge pipes and crimsons, and it's just, like, a very versatile draft, so I can respect it in that regard for sure. OG goes for the Nyx, which is, you know, very high tempo with these heroes. It's a good frontliner for these two heroes, and it does set up onto Oracle, so I totally see why they would pick it. Also, Spike Carapace is incredibly good against Earth Spirit and a Bloodseeker. You're basically guaranteed to hit it in a lot of fights. Then Team Liquid goes for the Void Spirit, which ends up being a flex pick. And one thing to note is that they do have last pick, which clearly shows you that they do want to pick some cheese. Now, if you guys don't understand what this means, here's a little bit of a insight on the pro tier drafting. When you have this pick where you pick 7th, right? You pick the 7th hero of the draft. It means you also have last pick, right? And so typically you would pick your mid laner last in a lot of games in the past, right? That was like the most traditional thing in Dota. You would last pick just whatever the favorable matchup was mid, and you would hope they would win mid. But now you can still do that with mid laners, and a lot of teams do, but teams are also doing it with safe laners as well. They pick their safe laner last. The meta has kind of shifted to that over time to adapt to make that an option as well. Now, as we talked about, Team Liquid ends up picking the Huskar. OG has the next two picks. They go for Troll. Another very versatile hero. I wouldn't say it's anything too special here. It's just a solid Troll game. They don't have any great hero to deal with him in his ulti once he BKBs. And then, let's see the bans. I'm curious what OG actually banned, because it wasn't Huskar. They do have the Oracle. Guess they just weren't concerned about the Huskar. But, yeah, let's take a look. So, we have the Lycan DP, which, I mean, I guess makes sense, right? It does make sense. This Bloodseeker could easily be the safe laner. We've seen this time and time again that the Bloodseeker is often the safe laner in this current meta, so this could easily be Boxy offlane Void Spirit. He's played it countless times. So they assume that they could actually need a mid laner, so they banned out to the cheesier mid laners, which I totally respect. It's definitely a great Lycan game. These three heroes don't do anything against Lycan at all. They're completely miserable against Lycan. I guess bugs are okay, but the Troll is good. It's okay against Lycan, but yeah, they ban those out. They go for, what do they go for? The Shaker? Okay. They kind of round out their draft with that. I mean, it's a bit of a weird Shaker pick. Like, I'm not going to lie, you don't see a lot of offlane Shaker nowadays. You just don't. But I honestly think offlane Shaker has potential for sure. I definitely believe that. And Team Liquid finishes off the draft with Quaifa on the Troll, which I think was a fantastic pick. The disarm is incredibly valuable against Troll. You have 2 disarms against Troll if you build Halberd. You're a great lane against Seb in the offlane Shaker if you want to put it safe lane, right? Definitely a good matchup. And yeah, I mean, I also think it's probably okay against Troll mid, so it's definitely a very solid Huskar pick. And now let's take a look at the actual game. Alright, so the Huskar does end up going mid, and it looks like the Void Spirit is going to be safe lane. This is a reason why, large reason why they picked this Void Spirit there. And I'm sure they had in mind the Huskar, right? They definitely had that Huskar in mind. Because Void Spirit is a mid laner, quote unquote, that you can pick, but he's also a great hero in the side lanes. It's just a good laner. His E is just like one of the most versatile spells in Dota. It just does what you need it to do. It blocks right-click damage, and frankly, that's pretty strong. You'll see that here, secures the range creep, and then no hero can trade with you because that's how your spell works. In terms of the mid lane, I'm not really sure how this lane will go. What I can say is that Huskar lacks good animation. Huskar lacks a good animation and good damage, level 1. So he actually takes his Q to secure creeps, which I can totally understand against a hero like Troll. Troll's a hero that can beat you up. If you're not careful against Troll, he can kill you. Troll's one of the better laners in Dota, so you're going to see Koifa pushing in the lane very hard. And also, cool little thing about this Q, because it disarms, it actually shoves your lane really, really hard. Not only is it an AoE nuke to shove the lane, which is great in the mid lane, right, to help you avoid taking too much damage, it also disarms the creeps, which pushes it in the lane even further. So basically, he's going to be able to shove the lane into the Troll no problem, which should help him to lane quite easily. So I'm a big fan of the skill build for Koifa. You know, if he was to take the Burning Spears, at level 1, it's pretty bad, honestly. The damage is really underwhelming for how much HP it actually costs you. So I'm a huge fan of how we actually optimize this trade overall. Alright, next up, let's take a look at a big turning point in the game. We're just going to skip ahead a little bit to the 10-minute mark here. In terms of the lanes, honestly, to give you guys a good lowdown, Void Spirit ended up winning top. He did very well against the Seb Earthshaker. You can see that he's 1,000 net worth above the Seb Earthshaker. The mid lane won, and I would even argue that the off lane won, considering that, you know, sure, they did quote-unquote get to pick the Bloodseeker into the Weaver. They knew what they were getting themselves into. Weaver IO is an insane lane. It's really hard to do well against, but he did great. He's only 300 net worth behind the Weaver, and the Earth Spirit in the off lane is almost 1,000 net worth above the position 5 IO, and Oracle's also very farmed as well. So you can see they had a great lane. And now, because of this, and because they have the Armlet, as well as the Treads, as well as the DD, which is really convenient, they're going to be able to take this Roshan. So a huge play from Liquid. I'm a little bit surprised that OG didn't read this, because to be honest, against Huskar drafts, you kind of have to expect the Roshan to come. It just always will come against these Huskar drafts. You know, that's what she said. And now he kind of has this Aegis advantage that he can really put to town. In fact, I think he just straight up kills Thompson. Wow. Oh my god, Thompson knew ulti wouldn't save him, which is absolutely true. He just gets leapt on. Koifa just perfectly toggles the armlet, considering Thompson was disarmed. The ulti would have done absolutely nothing for Thompson. He would have just died afterwards. And a huge play for Liquid. They're going to get the mid-tier 1 off this as well. So the Huskar against the Troll matchup already coming into play in the early game. Later on to the game, it can be very suspect for Huskar. Reason why I say that is once Troll gets BKB plus an item, he can ulti, and Huskar can very often have a hard time living against it. However, in the early game, when you have 2 disarms, right, which you can see he's building up to the... Oh, that's an unfortunate death. But as you can see, as he's building up to right now, he's going to have those two disarms, and that just makes Troll, even Weaver, right, considering Weaver's a rage share, disarms him for 5 seconds, much more with the Q. It makes that matchup very, very hard. And I do like how Liquid's playing this game. Frankly, they're not trying to make any kill attempts. They're not trying to push any towers, because there's no reason for them to do that. Especially without this Huskar Aegis, which they unfortunately lost as Koifa was running up a high ground. They're not going to try to make any plays. The first play they do make is defending a tier 2 on their side of the map. This makes a lot of sense, because Liquid sees the enemy team on the bottom side of the map. So in your pubs, it's very important that in your pubs, you do the same thing. Especially if you're a support player who's carrying the smokes. And guys, you have to do this. If you're a support and you aren't spam using and buying smokes, you are not a good support player, period. You cannot be a good support player without coordinating smoke ganks. But nonetheless, they see 2 heroes bottom. They know they have the number advantage top. They have this very active, high mobility Earth Spirit that can set up a play. Now, OG, unfortunately, is OG, so they read the gank, but they do end up finding the IO kill at the least, and they pick up that little kill. All right, so a big fight coming up here. I'm curious to see who wins this. Let's take a look at some of the parameters to take a quick guess on who actually will win this fight. So, the first thing we see Saksa approaching Boxy here on the Nyx. Definitely not the best hero to initiate on. You know, after all, this is an offlane Bloodseeker, and he has like 8 million strength items. He has an Ogre Axe, a Wand, he's got Raindrops, he's got an Atos, he's got Treads. I mean, my man is so tanky. And so it looks like he's in position. This is a really nice setup overall from Liquid here. That's the first thing I want to say. I just love their positioning, right? They know that as long as Boxy's on the front line and can get a Rupture off onto, frankly, any of OG's heroes, they can play around that, right? They can basically kite the fight around that. Now, they do start the fight with a nice Blood Ray onto the Shaker, which is a great start to the fight because, right, if Shaker can't get any spells off, that's literally all of OG's team fights. So that's how the fight breaks out. Then we see the Rupture come out. Who did he Rupture? The Weaver, right? So there's the Weaver counter, right? Weaver's going to have to obviously AFK now. OG can't go back in because they don't know whether or not Liquid is sitting on the high ground waiting for them. And so it's a quick little engagement, quick pick off for Liquid, which will also turn into a tier 2 tower eventually as they put pressure onto this lane. Now, let's see how they deal with the split push. I think a lot of the time people ask this question, Speed, how do you deal with split push? Because in pubs, it's one of the hardest things to deal with, right? Because it does require some synergy. However, let's talk about how you can deal with it alone. So let's just look at how Liquid deals with this version of split push, right? The Troll's in the bottom lane, Weaver's cutting the mid lane. They have some catch, right? They got their Spirit, the Void Spirit, the Bloodseeker. They got catch, so they could maybe go for a kill. But let's see whether or not they bother, because very often if you go for kills like that, you kind of lose your map control, right? You lose your map control. Why? Because if you TP mid or you TP bottom to deal with the Troll or the Weaver and you don't catch them, they're going to TP top and farm top. You're going to lose access to your triangle. You're going to lose your deep wards as well, probably against good players. And so let's see what they do. You can see they're going to send the boxy Bloodseeker, and who I'm assuming is going to have Rupture soon. He has it. And they're going to send Taiga to the bottom lane. So this is the best way you deal with it. You need to send your catch heroes, you need to smoke them to the opposite side of the map and look for a pickoff as the rest of your heroes kind of linger around mid. Now, why do you want to linger around mid? Why is this, in my opinion, a great way to execute on it? Because if you linger mid, you can be anywhere. If Liquid, Boxy, and Taiga bump into someone bottom, they can run over, help out. However, if the enemy team then TPs top, and wants to farm top, they can immediately try to collapse, get back there quickly, they can cut the mid wave, and slowly close down the map on OGs. So I like this execution. Now Saksa ends up cutting off the gank, which I think was completely intentional from Saksa. I think he wanted to die there, I really do believe that, as they do TP in. Thompson going a little bit too far there, but they get the reload out, okay. So the IO is going to sacrifice himself. OG clearly knowing what they want to do here. This is all intentional from OG. They are feeding these supports with a very clear intent on them dying. They know they're going to die. It is definitely intentional. Because if you don't feed some heroes when you're behind, you know, your cores are going to die eventually. So you feed the supports, and your cores get to split up the map. You can see Weaver completely cutting waves. Mid one knowing exactly what he needs to do in this game, which is just pushing in waves. Saksa dies again, which is pretty funny. But mid one continuing to shove the waves over and over and over again. Now cuts the bottom side of the map. Gonna go for these Ancients. I wouldn't be surprised though. Currently I don't see anyone on Liquid. They're probably roshing or they're looking for a Weaver pickoff. Oh, he finds the Courier. Oh my god, that's a 500 net worth wing. So Liquid goes for the Roshan. So they're clearly saying, okay, we're not gonna play this game. We're not gonna play the chase around game for forever, right? We have this Huskar. You know, we'll chase you once until Roshan is up. They play the chase game, they play the chase game, they play the chase game. Okay, Roshan's up. Chase game's over. Now they're going to start to force OG back. So this is the second alternative to split push, which is forcing them back. And you can only do this if you outpush them, right? So if you outpush them and they're split pushing, what you can do is just say, okay, if you split push, sure, you'll get a little bit of extra waves, you'll get some extra creeps, but we're going to threaten your base. We're going to try to force you back. Now, the only downside to this would, is the fact that you're going to have to take a fight on the enemy high ground. So when you're taking a fight on the enemy high ground, you just need to determine whether or not you care if they defend their high ground. Personally, if I'm Liquid this game, this is what I'm saying to my team. The enemy, they don't have D-push, they don't have heroes that can force us off the high ground. Let's go high ground, right? What do I mean by D-push? Long-range nukes, long-range poke. Does OG have that? Not really. Weaver, he has to get pretty close. Shaker, he has Fisher, but that's the best he has. He doesn't even have the shard, which I don't blame him. He does have it queued up, but he's not rushing it because it got nerfed really, really hard. But as you can see, right, they don't have that poke. Nyx isn't poke either. That hero has to get very close. And so I like this decision from Liquid saying, we don't care about your split push. We know you're going to go down our side lanes. We know you're going to try to stun us up and buy time, which, Saksa tries to do there. He's clearly trying to buy time. OG very obviously feels that they cannot fight Liquid. So you might be saying, oh, it's like the Arteezy meme. It's like, Arteezy is apparently still jungling. He is apparently still in the rice farm or whatever the meme is. I don't know. But it's like, why isn't OG defending? They're so bad. They're not defending because they can't defend. They literally cannot walk up to a Huskar with 3 lives. You might be saying 3 lives. Yeah, well, he has an Oracle, so that's basically a 3rd life, right? And so, yeah, they just completely give up the racks, and it's, frankly, understandable from OG. You might be saying, what? Are you serious? Yes. That is a professional level decision from OG. That is completely intentional. It's not that they were late to the defense. They literally decided we cannot defend. we need way more items, and we need to fight Liquid out of the base. That sounds crazy, right? It's like, what? They need to fight Liquid out of the base? Speed, didn't you say that like fighting high ground is always the way to go? Yeah, except if it's into an Aegis Huskar that you can't poke down. And this is exactly what I'm talking about from OG. It's a beautiful smoke gank from OG. They show mid one bottom, so they're basically baiting mid one to the bottom lane. They want the enemy team to bait him, and because of that, they are now going to gank this Void Spirit, who they echo, they chain stun, they even ulti. Pretty meh ulti, to be honest. I guess he didn't want the guy to get away, which is somewhat understandable, but they ulti, and now they're going to take a fight, and this is what OG wanted. However, Topson doesn't have ulti, so he might just get auto attacked down, to be honest, so it's a good Fisher. I think they're going to get kited out and die. I guess it's a solid fight from OG. They find the backline with the Weaver, he's got the BKB. It's a really, really well-played fight by OG. Even if they end up losing this fight because they get kited out, which I think they might, this Huskar might just be too much for them to handle, frankly. Yeah. They just can't deal with this Huskar. I mean, it's such a good Huskar pick. They have no answers, and he's going to kill everybody. I guess the mid one, Weaver might live. He gets rooted up. Nah, he's dead. Oh? Okay. They see him, though. Oh, Taiga snipes him. The rolling boulder distance. The level 10 talent coming into play there. He takes 6 armor, though, which is kind of funny. I guess he just wants to tank up, not die, which is understandable. But beautifully done. Honestly, props to OG. Like, you know, you might be saying, oh, OG is such noobs. But really, that's a beautifully played fight. You know, considering how far behind they actually are, you know, the fact that they're fighting into an Aegis, that engagement is the only type of engagement that they could potentially win. And that's where, like, that's where you really, it's hard to see that type of aspect of Pro Dota. But their fight selection is very intentional. It's very calculated. They know where certain parts of the map just enable their heroes, which sounds crazy, but I hope that kind of like, I hope it kind of inspires you guys. I always found that cool. Like when I was learning Dota and learning that aspect of Dota, it was always cool to me. Like, oh wow, they actually take fights because of their heroes in certain areas of the map. Now, eventually, after 33 minutes, they try to put an end, or they do put an end to the split push of OG. And they're trying to go high ground here. So now they have an Aegis, they have a cheese. They're going to kind of rinse repeat. And as I said, I don't think OG can really fight them when the Huskar is just able to sit on the front line like this. You know, they obviously are throwing all the spells they have at them, but oh my god, Midone just dies. Did he have no ulti? He had ulti. What? What was that? What? What was that? That was weird. But the Oracle ulti comes out. Huskar is going to be full HP. And yeah, this is what I said. They just don't have a way to get the Huskar off the base. So once Liquid is able to deal with the split push, catch them out, and make the pickoffs, which they made a couple of. I didn't show them to you because, you know, I just had talked about that. But yeah, they force OG. And OG, you can clearly tell, is trying to make a full-on collapse play. They can't play the slow poke game. It just simply won't work against Huskar. So they make the full collapse play. But that's just not going to be enough as Huskar jumps in. He's going to kill Topson. No Tail is going to die as well. And that is all from OG. A beautifully played game by Liquid. They very well executed on their strategy. They got every single Roshan they needed to. They dealt with the split push with some well-timed smoke ganks. And that's going to be all for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Get your GameLeap sub right now, because if you don't, you're not going to be able to win games like Liquid does. Peace!